My name is Griffey Braun. This is Screen Off Script. I'm here today with Walton Goggins and Francis Turner, MacLachlan and Annabel O'Hagan, Jonathan Nolan and Geneva Robertson-Dworet. Guys, first off, congratulations on season 2. I can't wait for people to see the ending of this. For me, what I loved about the show in general is just like you're watching it from so many different people's perspectives, but I love the fact that you're watching from like Lucy's perspective because it's a whole new world for her. But it's not the world as she saw it kind of growing up. And obviously these are like dire circumstances, but one thing I want to ask you guys, can you think of a film or a piece of art or show or anything that kind of changed your worldview of how you saw everything?
Well, going back deep, I think the, I don't know why this came to my mind, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon was completely different, like in terms of music. It just comes into my head. That's going back a ways. But that was definitely like a, what the heck just am I listening to? So
That's a good one.
my contribution.
Yeah, I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to go very recent. I watched Hamnet. And I will never think the same way about grief after watching Jessie Buckley's performance.
Oh,
So that's something that really inspired me
I know
recently.
what you mean. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful example.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She's so... Yeah, I will never think about acting the same way.
No,
after seeing that.
it's extraordinary.
Whoa.
Extraordinary. And in the fast food department, I would say the invention of Fritos. Fritos changed the whole
Right, keep
chip,
it light.
It
Yeah.
changed the chip game from the beginning, and I was around when they
Totally.
came
I'm going to go
out.
with Kettle.
Totally.
Kettle are significantly better chips.
Oh yeah, nothing. But like just to sort of say, here's our first try.
Yeah, going way back, like sliced bread. Crazy.
How could that happen? Amazing.
Okay, but just real quick, Annabelle, for yourself, one thing I really find interesting as well is just like the morality of everything. Everybody sees their story as like, I'm the good person, right? And so for your character, obviously it changes so much. Does the actions that happen throughout the story or the way it unfolds, do you approach the character differently as it kind of goes?
Yeah, absolutely. I think after finding out her backstory and getting to film all of that, I think I understood how brave she is. Good or bad doesn't really matter. I think the fact that she chooses to continue to exist and move and run and try to make a life for herself is incredibly brave when you've lost anything. And I think the entire show is about survival and what will you do to ensure your own survival. And I really enjoy Steph's perspective on that.
I view it as the humanity. I don't look at whether the character is good or bad, or whether their actions are good or bad. I look at it, what are the choices she's making in whatever context she's in? What is the truth of this moment, and each moment? And whatever happens in one moment will kind of, it's like a ripple effect, or like, a puddle, throwing a pebble in a puddle. So yeah, no, I never concern myself with whether a character is good or bad, or I'm not judging from the outside as an actor. I'm just playing the truth of her journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. Has there ever been something like an art or film or really anything that kind of changed your worldview dramatically and it kind of stuck with you as like, this is the thing that did it for me? I know it's
Such a fascinating question. I want to find the right answer.
I think the Thin Red Line changed my idea of how a movie could work and how cerebral it could be and poetic at the same time, and how the editorial rhythm of that film is fascinating in the way that it gets you into this weird spell where honestly that movie could have been 7 hours long and I'm not sure I would have noticed. Like and Terry Malick is one of the filmmakers who's just able to kind of conjure, to pull you into a place and kind of hold you there. So I think that's definitely a film that had a huge impact on me.
And we've talked so much about Star Trek and making this, but
Yeah.
it is, in many ways, a great way to learn about ethnocentrism, moral explorations. It's such an introduction to what sci-fi can do at its best, and I think it's in a way, Fallout is very similar to Star Trek in that it's an anthropological, moral exploration.
I I love that. One thing I actually really find interesting is I'm just fascinated by the way like the story kind of unfolds, and I feel like the perception of the characters is constantly changing for me at least, and I think that's obviously on purpose. But like because that's kind of as you reveal new information, you're asking all these challenging questions that are very relevant and topical. Like, can you trust the government? Can you trust corporations? Like that feels current. Um, I'm not asking for spoilers, and frankly, I don't even want to know. I'd rather like wait and see how you guys figure it out. But I'm curious, what the way you kind of draw parallels between real life and the show. How do you figure out how you're gonna end the show, and how do you approach the idea of a satisfying ending?
That's a tough question.
I think it's a blend of making sure that the ending is emotionally satisfying as a character journey, but also doesn't contradict kind of what we're ultimately trying to explore in the Wasteland with sort of the larger moral themes of the show. So I think it's a balance, but we primarily come at it through the level of character and the boots on the ground, whether it's Lucy, Max, or the ghoul. What emotionally do they still have to work through as people?
What yourself?
In terms of writing endings?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Well, Geneva and I both started writing movies. And with movies, you have the advantage of being able to kind of see and sometimes hold the entire script in your head at once. And it's possible, as we did with The Dark Knight or other projects I've worked on, where you start with the ending. You know what the ending is going to be, and then you kind of work towards it. I think with a series, you'd be foolish to not have an ending in mind. You'd also be maybe more foolish to be completely locked into what that ending is. Going on this journey as many seasons, and I hope the show runs for many, many seasons more. But with television, it's a little more about the journey than destination. So it's a challenge for sure.
What I really enjoyed about the show, it's the end of the world as we know it. But the thing that I would love is like Lucy is like the person we're viewing it through, right? And there are moments where Lucy realizes that the world isn't as she grew up seeing it. And obviously there's like dire circumstances, but can you think of a time when there was like a film or a show or a piece of art that changed your worldview?
Mm,
Oh,
wow.
I mean, like,
Uh,
what isn't? What a piece of art that doesn't
doesn't.
do that,
That's
right?
that's what art does.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm look, I disagree with you. I mean, I think that Ella and Lucy is a way into this world, but she's one of many, you know. I think you see it through Maximus. I think you see it through Barb. I think you see it through the Ghoul. I think you see it through Cooper. I think you see it through a number of these different characters. And that's designed as if they're all avatars, right? Just like the game. But just to throw this out, my son and I are on a war footing right now, and it's like you need to see these movies about Vietnam, about World War II for sure, Korean War. Now we're on to Vietnam, and he watched Apocalypse a couple of weeks ago, and then we watched Full Metal Jacket, Kubrick.
Okay.
And then we moved on to 2001: A Space Odyssey from there. He said, this filmmaker, give me that. And he sat there for 2 hours and 45 minutes with fucking 10 pages of dialogue and couldn't look away. And I watched him change in real time. And that's what
Love
art
that.
is.
Yeah.
What about yourself? Can you think of anything?
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, I am always welcoming the opportunity to, whether it is film, television, or music, to be transported
Mhm.
and learn something that I didn't know, or step into a world for however long that is, and just kind of surrender my own thoughts, views, whatever, my whatever makes me me, and just learn from art. I think that is the purpose of art,
Yeah.
to be moved by it, to learn from it.
Walton, last question I just got for you is it's a weird thing to say, but like you're one of those actors that I've seen my entire life, and you've always been a tremendous actor, and I think everybody can kind of agree on that. But more recently, you've seen like projects like this, like Fallout, like White Lotus, where it feels like your perception of success has really changed. And what I kind of find interesting is I've always respected your approach as an artist and picking projects. Can you talk about how success changes your creative approach and the idea of building momentum?
Well, I never set out to build momentum, right? I mean, that really
What's
wasn't a part
happening?
of it. It was always, I've been very fortunate, over the course of my career to get some invitations to things that scared the shit out of me, and I felt like that's what I needed to do, you know. And now I find myself in a position where I'm getting even more opportunities, and what a really good friend of mine, an Academy Award winner, said is he said when this happens, you're going to realize that there aren't that many great stories out there. And that's true. That's true. There are a lot of stories out there. There's not a lot of great stories out there with great writing. And for me, it's never been budget dependent. It's never been subject matter dependent. And it's never been on being number one or number five on the call sheet. It's about whether or not I feel like I can contribute to this story in a meaningful way, whether that's through humor or whether that's through, heartfelt emotion. And that's was my litmus test then. My life was fucking amazing at every chapter of my journey, and it's amazing now.
Last question I got is it's been 1 year since the passing of one of the greatest filmmakers of all time with David Lynch. And there's like a cinephile out there right now who's just about to become a fan of David Lynch. And I think that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
And I can't imagine anybody with better perspective than you for this. But what do you think about his work that gets you, that can get like a cinephile really excited? And what would be a great entry point for them to become a fan?
Gosh, okay. Yes, my dear friend David. There's no one like him. His images, his work, his art is singular. So it's meant to be experienced. You put yourself in a state of mind when you go watch his films. You're not going to necessarily see a linear traditional story, but you're going to go through a journey. You're going to go on a journey with his films. And I remember seeing Eraserhead, and my mind was blown. I have no idea what I just saw, but it was like compelling and disturbing, and it moves you. So he will affect you on a much deeper level than I think you might traditionally experience at the movies. It's like you go to movies for an escape, for a good time. David's, you go to a movie to have an epiphany, to have a journey, to have an experience, if you're open to it. And you can start anywhere. I think, Blue Velvet is a pretty great place to start, but Mulholland would be great. You could start with Lost Highway. You could start with Twin Peaks.
not that bad. Yeah, Twin
Anywhere,
Peaks pretty good.
Anywhere in there is good. But once you start, you won't be able to stop.
Absolutely. Guys, congratulations on the show. And thank you so much for the candidness and your answers. I appreciate you guys so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.